So one of the fascinating bits in this week's Torah portion, Va'era, so we're told here, there's a verse that says, right, this appears all over the Torah, Vaydaber Hashem el Moshe leimor, right? And God said to Moses to say. And we want to understand what is the purpose, the sort of supposed superfluous meaning of leimor. Right? If God speaks to Moses, we know that he wants to tell him something that for him to know or to communicate, what is the purpose of leimor? To say. And Nachmanides tells us, that, and this is great because throughout this whole Torah portion, you really feel, what comes across, what's emphasized is Nachmanides as giving us the literal meaning of many things. And many times in this week's Torah portion, you'll find Rabbi, Ibn Ezra, Rashi, and say they're just not with the pshat, that they're not going with the literal meaning. It's fascinating. But this is a great example. So he says, most of the commentators say, Le'emor means, go tell Israel. But he says this isn't the case. I can give you examples where le'emor, to say, is not addressed to Israel, so this doesn't make sense. Rather, he says, and the real meaning to me, ve'anachon be'enai, is that whenever it says le'emor, it means that God wants to be crisp, clear. There's no room here for vagueness, for sort of, mysterious, kind of saying something you can go this way or that way. No. If God says le'emor, it means this is exactly what I'm saying, this is exactly what's going to be communicated, right? Fascinating. Just one other thing I'll add, there's this whole issue of God strengthening Pharaoh's heart, and there's this question that the sages ask, is this ethical, right? Because by strengthening his heart, there is no possibility for him to do tshuva. And Rabbi Yochanan, says, but then, the Gentiles will come and say, oh, God didn't let him do tshuva. And Rish Lakish says this is nonsense. When God comes 1, 2, 3, 5 times, what do you want? He's clearly not interested. And Nachmanides says there are two reasons, and they're both right for the justification of this. He says the first one is that Pharaoh, as we know, he for no reason whatsoever bit the lives of the Israelites. Meaning his crimes were so severe that he had to pay for them. There's no, and it's fascinating because he's saying there's no room for tshuva in such an instance. When you horrifically hurt someone for no reason whatsoever, this is the worst kind of crime. God's going to strengthen your heart. God is going to ensure that you are going to, what needs to happen, you will happen. And the second reason, right, we know that one of the reasons for Exodus was that all the world would know God's outstretched arm and the existence of a God. And the problem is that Pharaoh, right, and this from at the start, God didn't strengthen his heart, but the more plagues come about, the only reason Pharaoh let us go was because of the burden of the plagues. It was not for the right reason, which was recognizing God. And this is why he had to keep strengthening, right? This shows how much of a strong will Pharaoh had, that God had to keep strengthening his will, only for the Exodus to be such that God would be recognized. Thoughts on those two different ideas on the Torah portion of Va'era. Shabbat Shalom.